This segment brought to you by Kansas Wheat. Learn more at rediscoverwheat.org.
Welcome to Farm Factor. Now let's find out how trade with China directly affected products, including chicken paws.
Duane Toews joining you once again here on Ag AM in Kansas, and a chance to catch up with Shelby Watson with USAPEEC, a U.S. Egg Export Council.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah, it's more than I can remember at any one sitting. So, Shelby, talking a little bit about exports and what they mean to the poultry industry and ultimately the grains industries in the United States. It's a big part and a big player in profitability for producers.
Absolutely. You know, the soybean and corn industry is an integral part of the poultry industry. Domestically here, domestic consumption is tapped out. So if we're going to grow in the poultry industry, that meat's got to go out of the United States into our international markets. So we really work on opening, developing, and protecting those markets.
We think about the geopolitical situation right now. It's an interesting world in time that we're in, and trying to get trade agreements put in place. But they are such an important facet of what you guys do to create those relationships to get that export market and remain profitable for producers here in the U.S.
Absolutely. We have great relationships with the USDA and their offices across the world. So we've got great relationship, and we're able to, you know, if we need them, they're there. We have the phone call right then and there. We know who to get in contact with. And we also work with National Chicken Council, National Turkey Federation, and the American Egg Board. They really help us on the lobbying side of things.
So thinking about some of those export markets, where do we see great potential for the poultry industry?
Well, China just opened back up after 5 years. They closed after the avian influenza scare back in 2014. So that's a really big opening for the U.S. poultry and egg industry. But we also just opened to India. That has been something that kind of came out of left field. Our president, Jim Sumner, he would say that he didn't expect for that to happen in his lifetime, much less in his career. So we're really working there on developing the need for consumption and the need for the protein. And we think that if we can get their consumption up, then they might be our next China. So lots of opportunity there.
When we think about those two countries combined, a fair percentage of the world's population and an emerging market with the growth in incomes, protein is a deficit in India, and what a great opportunity.
Absolutely. And then you also have African swine fever that's playing a role in that, and it's reshaping the global meat markets. They're going to need to fill that void that they're losing on the pork side, and we're hoping that poultry will be a factor in that. We hate to benefit from such a devastating situation, but it is going to play a big factor in that.
We think about some of the things that we utilize typically within the United States. Some of those pieces and parts that maybe aren't terribly favored in the U.S. Have great value in some of those export opportunities in other countries.
Absolutely. I think the best example of that are the chicken paws that the Chinese market goes crazy for. The paws is a fancy word for their feet. It's like their bar food. They sit at the bar and they pop the feet in like chips. So without the Chinese market, they're worth like $75 million alone. And with that market back open, they're worth $835 billion.
It's amazing how an opportunity like that presents itself. You'd referenced that the poultry industry is uniquely tied to both the corn and soybean industries. They are a huge player in profitability for growers here in the U.S.
Absolutely. We have incredible support from the soybean and corn checkoff programs. We actually, almost half of our funding now is coming from the soybean and corn industries. So the mutually beneficial relationship is well acknowledged. And we are grateful. We couldn't do half of what we do as an organization without their help.
Our thanks to Shelby for joining us here on Ag AM in Kansas. Jamie, we'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Duane. Coming up after the break, it's this week's Kansas Soybean Update.